So Mick Foley left WWE because of their ties to Donald Trump. Said he couldn't be complicit. In fact, his exact words were that he doesn't want to be associated with a company who coddles a man so seemingly void of compassion. Mick crossed the picket line to AEW because Tony Khan's company was supposed to be the clean, anti-Trump alternative. The wrestling promoter who wouldn't sell his soul. That's a beautiful story. Too bad it's complete horseshit. Because the simplest of critical thinking connects Tony Khan to the Trump regime in ways that aren't just comparable to WWE's, it's worse. It's way worse. And nobody's talking about it. Not Dave Meltzer, not Brian Bonaparte, not the AEW state-sponsored wrestling media that spent years lecturing WWE about their political compromises, all while Tony Khan was out here building a web of Trump-connected relationships that would make Vince McMahon blush. Today, we're going to talk about Tony Khan's undeniable ties to the Trump administration, how Khan coddling Trump spits in the face of what his own network stands for, and why his complicity is unethical, shameful, and even dangerous. Subscribe in Swahili. Let's start with what we already know. Shad Khan, Tony's daddy, the money behind AEW, the guy who signs the checks, donated $1 million to Donald Trump's 2017 inauguration committee. $1 million. Now, Tony Khan defenders will say what Reddit always says. Shad Khan said he regrets the donation. But here's what they don't tell you. Shad Khan didn't just donate, he routinely praised Trump's economy before it collapsed during the pandemic. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. Shad didn't get drunk one night and wake up with 7 figures missing like, dude, where's my cash? This was a pattern of alignment. And I'm sorry, you can miss me with all the people who regret trusting a man who was America's biggest liar even before he considered running for president. Let me get this straight. It took Shad Khan $1 million to find out that Donald Trump was a con man? Shad called Trump the great divider after Shad gave him $1 million. So did Shad get that money back, or am I supposed to feel sorry for this poor billionaire because he got worked? I bet good money on a horse who finished last in the Kentucky Derby, but I don't get credit because Pavlovian fucked up. It took you $1 million to figure out that the birther guy was divisive? Shad Khan is an immigrant who became a self-made billionaire. He spent most of his adult life around rich white people, and he couldn't recognize casual racism enough to not give a white supremacist $1 million? What a dumb bitch! Tekla's words and mine. And you know what? The $1 million is actually the smallest part of this story. The real Trump problem isn't what Tony Khan's dad did in 2017. It's what Tony Khan is doing right now, in 2026, with the people who are actively helping Trump seize control of mainstream media. Tony Khan has a friend. His name is David Ellison. And David Ellison's family just bought a media empire. Warner Brothers Discovery has merged with Paramount Skydance. Here's what Tony Khan said about it in May of this year. Quote, "I'm very excited about who's the buyer. It's very good for us, and I think it's fantastic to have David Ellison coming in here," end quote. That's right. He called the Ellison's acquisition of Paramount fantastic. Tony's excited, and why wouldn't he be? AEW needs a new TV deal, and Paramount Plus just became the exclusive home of the UFC to the tune of $7 billion. Guess it helps having friends in high places, right? But let's talk about who David Ellison actually is, and more importantly, his daddy, Larry Ellison. On June 12th, The Guardian reported that Trump's Department of Justice approved the $111 billion merger of Paramount Skydance and Warner Brothers Discovery. The Ellisons are what The Guardian described as pro-Trump billionaires. Not billionaires who happen to lean right, pro-Trump billionaires, just like Shad Khan. In fact, David Ellison, Tony's friend and fellow Nepo baby, hosted a private dinner honoring Trump just 2 months ago. And it gets worse. CNN reported that the takeover offer, the one that just got approved, was also backed financially by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Kushner money in the deal that Tony Khan is excited about. Now, here's where it gets super ugly, no Dr. Dre. David Ellison, after acquiring Paramount, installed corporate crash test dummy Barry Weiss as the editor-in-chief of CBS News. The Financial Times reported that Ellison recruited Weiss as part of his plan to reshape CBS News. Business Insider reported that Weiss was directing coverage to be more aligned with the Trump administration's views. Scott Pelley, CBS's own anchor, blew the whistle on this publicly. Anderson Cooper, CNN's top anchor, is already telling colleagues that he does not want to work for Barry Weiss. This is the type of dignity that evaded Tony Khan the second he started glazing Paramount Plus, all while conveniently leaving out the Trump propaganda of it all. So let me connect the dots for you. David Ellison buys Paramount, installs a Trump-aligned editor at CBS News, which has effectively tanked the entire network under her watch. His family's $111 billion merger with WBD, which owns CNN, gets approved by Trump's DOJ, and this merger is financially backed by Jared Kushner. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is public record. The Ellisons are actively whitewashing mainstream media into Trump propaganda machines. Fox News been compromised. CBS is now compromised. CNN is next, because it's literally part of the portfolio that the Ellisons just acquired. In fact, one of the only conglomerates that still has an anti-Trump platform is NBC Universal, a longtime partner of, you guessed it, WWE. Yet Tony Khan called David Ellison his friend, said it's fantastic that he's coming in here. Why? Because Tony Khan is desperate for a TV deal. He wants AEW on Paramount Plus. He wants to be on the same channel as UFC. He's only booking white people to win AEW world titles in a contract year, and he's willing to look the other way while his friends help Trump take over the press. Remember when the pathetic IWC lost its mind because WWE accepted Saudi money? Where's that same energy now? More importantly, do you really think a guy with the moral compass of Tony Khan would turn down that Saudi money? Dana White sure didn't. In fact, Dana's another friend of Tony Khan's. Tony Khan has said, in his own words, that he has a great relationship with Dana White and top executive Hunter Campbell. In November, he told Ariel Helwani that he still talks to UFC boss Dana White all the time. Last year, he described Dana White as a close friend who's been really, really nice to me. Aww. Tony's message is quite clear. These aren't business acquaintances. Tony and Dana are closer than Keenan and Kel. They're probably in the same MAGA group chat. Quick question, do you know where Dana White was on June 14th, 2026? He was standing on the south lawn of the White House promoting UFC Freedom 250, the first UFC event ever held on White House grounds, on Donald Trump's 80th birthday no less. PBS NewsHour called it Trump's decades-long partnership with Dana White. A partnership, not a casual acquaintance, but a partnership between a fascist and the chrome dome wife who spoke at his election party. Freedom 250 on the White House lawn aired on Paramount Plus, where UFC fighter Josh Hokett grabbed a microphone and called Michelle Obama a man. This is a network Tony Khan wants to be on. This is a friend Tony Khan brags about. This is a promotion Tony Khan said he'd love to be on the same channel as. In fact, if UFC had no ties to WWE through the TKO deal, and if Tony Khan wasn't technically a competitor, he would have been sitting right next to Trump on that lawn, clapping, cheering, choking on his bottled water, and watching Honky Hokett besmirch the good name of Queen Michelle live and in living cracker. Because that's what you do when your close friend throws a party for the president and your other friend's network airs it. But Tony Khan couldn't be there because TKO exists. Because WWE and UFC are under the same corporate umbrella. So instead, Tony does the next best thing. He praises the network. He praises the owner. He calls them friends, and he angles for a TV deal while his good friends turn CBS into state media and prepare to do the same to CNN. Now, I'm not telling you to cancel Paramount Plus, and I have no problem with anybody who subscribes. Full disclosure, I subscribe to Paramount Plus for the NFL, for Big Brother, South Park, and SpongeBob SquarePants seasons 1 through 3. But I'm not out here specifically glazing Paramount Plus after they've become pawns for Donald Trump through the Ellison family. That's Tony Khan's gimmick. And to that point, I want to talk about somebody who should be here for this conversation, but isn't. And that's Ted Turner. Ted Turner died on May 6th of this year. He was 87 years old, and AEW, Tony Khan's company, opened Dynamite that night with a tribute, a 10-bell salute. Sting came out, Tony Schiavone spoke. It was classy, it was respectful, and it was the right thing to do. Because without Ted Turner, there is no AEW. Ted Turner created the wrestling landscape that made Tony Khan's company possible. Turner founded TBS and TNT, which air AEW Dynamite and the soon-to-be-canceled Collision, respectively. Turner bought WCW and turned it into the only real competition WWE has ever had. And, this is the part that matters, Ted Turner founded CNN. With CNN, Ted Turner created the first 24-hour news network in history, the network that the Ellisons are about to swallow whole in their merger with WBD, the same network that Trump has spent over a decade calling fake news and threatening. This is the network that Tony's friend David Ellison and David's Trump-backed family are about to control. And here's what makes this genuinely sickening. AEW mourned Ted Turner. They dedicated a show to him. They rang the bell 10 times. And then Tony Khan went right back to praising the man who's helping Trump ruin the legacy that Ted Turner built. Tony Khan paid tribute to the man who created CNN while actively cozying up to the family that's about to destroy it. If Ted Turner were alive to see what's happening to CNN, to see a wrestling promoter on his own networks facilitating the move, he'd be spinning in his grave fast enough to power Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta. Turner believed in independent media. He believed in a press that could hold power accountable. If you want any indication of how he felt about Trump, Ted Turner publicly endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016 and believed that the world would be a better place if it was solely led by women. Now his legacy is being handed to a pro-Trump billionaire boys club and praised by a man-child of a wrestling promoter who thinks it's fantastic. So let's put it all together, because the pattern is too clean to ignore. Tony Khan's daddy gave $1 million to Trump. Tony Khan's friend David Ellison just bought Paramount with Kushner's money and Trump's DOJ blessing. Paramount Skydance is actively reshaping CBS News to serve Trump's narrative. Tony Khan's close friend Dana White threw a UFC fight on the White House lawn for Trump's birthday, aired it on Paramount Plus, and let a fighter call Michelle Obama a man on the white man's television. This is not Tony Khan just happening to be friends with somebody who supports Trump. This is a real-life version of an insurrectionist finding Tony Khan's Facebook profile only to realize they have over 100 mutual friends. Tony Khan will do anything to get a new TV deal with Paramount Plus. And when I say anything, I mean anything. Even if that means turning a blind eye to the fact that his friends are helping Donald Trump seize control of the mainstream media. He'll praise them. He'll glaze them. He'll dedicate shows to the man who built CNN while shaking hands with the people dismantling it. Mick Foley left WWE because he didn't want to be complicit. Not only is Tony Khan complicit, he's enthusiastically along for the ride and calling shotgun. And the wrestling media that spent 100,000 tweets apiece screaming about WWE's Trump ties on Elon's app, silent. Because much like Tony Khan, the dying dirt sheets are compromised too. Of course Tony Khan is in favor of state-sponsored media. Just look at any of his fake media scrums filled with cowards too scared to ask real questions. Mick Foley showed his own cowardice by going from one Trump-aligned company to another. For more on that story, check out this video.